Welcome to today's version of the Ask the Digital Bootcamp Expert. I'm Lisa Steele with Motherlode Holding Company.
And I'm Eddie Otto with First American Title.
And today, our expert joining us is Rick Hill. And Rick is the Vice President of Industry Technology at the Mortgage Bankers Association. Welcome, Rick. Before we start, we want to thank F&F companies for their sponsorship and support of our digital bootcamp and our e-mortgage bootcamp, obviously. We are now planning for the virtual bootcamp at August 18th, 19th, and 20th. Eddie, can you believe it's right around the corner?
I know, it's coming right up.
Super excited about it. If you have not signed up, please get out there and sign up. There's some great topics and amazing speakers. So we're looking forward to an awesome boot camp.
Cool. Well, the reason we have Rick here is we wanted to talk about this new RON certification program that MISMO has launched. So we want to find out what it's all about. So Rick, thanks for taking the time and lending us your expertise for a little bit. Let's start with a quick level set. We know that the MISMO standards came out a while back for RON. And why don't we start with just an overview there. What do those entail and how are they being used today across the states?
Yeah, so actually they did come out just about a year ago, actually, and in their current form. So they were actually written for everyone. When I say everyone, it's a fairly broad everyone when we say that. You know, we had to keep in mind that the remote online notary, to implement, the states had to create regulations. So creating standards that could be used by the lenders, settlement agents, as well as the secretaries of state, and developing the appropriate regulations are really written for everyone. So it's a little bit unusual, certainly a first time for MISMO to do something of that nature. They've actually used them in drafting some of the state regulations that already exist. So that is a use of the standards already. But importantly, the lenders, the settlement agents, title companies, everyone really has started to use these. Certainly with the pandemic, there's been a rapid adoption of all of this, and thankfully they were there to be utilized. So it's pretty broad. Even the legislators, you know, being aware of it really does allow the parties or the legislators to know something is there. So as they've done, you know, emergency orders and whatnot, they can feel comfortable that there actually is a process there. You asked, you know, what are the standards? So if you think about the closing process, you kind of got to do things just like what a notary would do in person. You've got to find an equivalent version of that in this online world. So credential analysis, right? We've got to authenticate the borrower, that consumer. You know, who is that person there? Are they really who they purport to be? So that's a critical part of that. So a good part of the standards talk about how you go through that authentication process, how you validate an ID, right, which has got to be still a government, you know, issued ID. How do you do that? We don't prescribe exactly how every company will do it because, right, we don't want to get into where folks are innovating, but we do say that, you know, you need to be able to do that part of it. So authentication of the individuals is critical. Obviously, the government ID. Some companies are developing interesting processes of how they look at the ID. So again, we don't say exactly how to do that, but companies are innovating around that. Knowledge-based authentication is a part of this. It's not the only way to validate the individual, but it's certainly the most common. So we've got a number of things associated with that. We also talk about the audiovisual. So you know, you've got to make sure that you've got a session that is being recorded, right, as appropriate, that there aren't breaks in the recording. There's an audit trail of everything that's happening as you go through the process. And at the end, you've really got to have a tamper evidence seal across all of this. It doesn't do us any good if someone can somehow get in and edit the recording. So all of that is built into the standard. There's a lot more detail. I know you'll be going through that when we do the boot camp here very soon. So I'll pause there because that's quite a bit in a very short period of time.
So Rick, in terms of this program, I understand there's a new certification process for Ron. Can you talk a little bit about the certification process and who is getting certified?
Yeah, so it's actually the product, and so there are vendors out there. There's at least, I believe, 17 different entities that currently have products, at least that we know about.
And more every day, popping up.
Well, yeah, it keeps going up. That's right. So there are a lot of organizations that have developed this product. They've got expertise in this area, right? So a lot of them are new entities or entities that many in mortgage perhaps weren't familiar with until perhaps the last couple of years. So it's their products. The lenders, the settlement companies, right? We're the ones, or the lenders, some will go out and purchase the software, right? Or look to integrate that software into our various platforms, our closing platforms. Many of these organizations really have already done the work and the legwork to integrate with all these back-end systems that we all utilize. So those are really the folks who are going to get certified. So the good thing is the lenders and the settlement companies really don't need to be certified themselves. They're going to be able to rely upon this certification.
Excellent. So I know that with some of the communications that's gone out, I've heard a little bit of confusion in the industry, thinking that every remote online notary needs to get certified. But it's not. It's the remote online notary platforms that what you're saying. It's the software companies, the product companies that create those portals. So that I think that's an important distinction, obviously. But what are Rick, if you could share, what are the goals and objectives of the certification effort? What is the intended outcome of that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you want to have trust, right? That's what we're talking about here. You want to have trust in the transaction. You want to make sure that it's certainly no less of a trust than when you have a physical notary right in front of you. And so that's a big part of everything that we're able to do and work on. When you start going digital, you really you both got to make sure that folks are comfortable with it, but at the end, you've got the digital record of things, and so all of that is really part of all this. When we're trying to, when we are certifying the company, the expectation should be is that a lender or a settlement company or even an investor, let's say the GSEs, will have trust that organization meets the MISMO standards, right? They don't have to turn around and vet each of these companies themselves for whether something does or doesn't meet those MISMO standards. And that's a very important thing. Right now as an industry, we have a tendency to everybody goes out and vets every company independently. And so the intent is really to have something that's quite rigorous that others can rely upon, and then say, okay, this is a set of companies out here that truly we're comfortable with. They've been vetted. They've been vetted by a third party. Okay, we're now comfortable that we can engage with this company. And then hopefully they can choose. Each company innovates very differently. And again, we try to stay out of that part of it, obviously, but they can choose the product that best meets their needs as an organization rather than worrying about some of the underlying details.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent.
Well, Rick, thank you. I know we could probably go on about this topic forever, and that's a good thing for all of you watching, because you have an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into this subject when you attend the online boot camp, the virtual boot camp this year. So again, it's August 18th through 20th. We want to thank F&F family of companies for their sponsorship. And Eddie, Anything else from your end?
We got to get ready for that boot camp. It is around the corner. So do sign up as Lisa was encouraging you to do. Maybe I should decorate the office a little bit for the boot camp. That would be fun.
There you go. Get a boot camp banner. Thank you very much, Rick, for joining us today and for your insight. We look forward to hearing a lot more about this at the boot camp, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.